Hello and welcome to episode 3 of Milan Mondays, bringing you all the weekly news Milan related. Now, as it is pre-season and the transfer window's in full swing, there's a lot to get through, so again, not going to waste any time, going to get straight into it. A big piece of news from the week is that Romagnoli, after many weeks of speculation and uncertainty and many years of service to Milan, has finally left on a free transfer to Lazio. It did look for a time that this deal wouldn't go through thanks to, I think, wage demands and also the situation surrounding Ep3, who we still may sign. But eventually the deal has gone through. He's gone to Lazio, apparently his boyhood club. And that wraps up quite a legacy that Romagnoli has left at Milan. Of course, he was the captain before leaving, although frankly I disagreed with that, but he still was the captain. He stuck with Milan through the Banter era, and he's emerged not as a Milan legend by any respect, but he's been a good servant, even if he's been really frustrating at times, like sort of penalties given away, social distancing when defending. Those are some of the things that have got on my nerves with him, but you've got to admit that we could have had much worse in our dark years, and now he's left as a Scudetto winner. It's a brilliant way to leave, frankly, so I wish him all the best, frankly, at Lazio. Now we move from a defender departing to a possible defender arrival, and that is the rumours surrounding Tanganga from Tottenham. Now, I heard his name last week being briefly mentioned, but I didn't put it in last week's episode because, frankly, there weren't really enough stories about it to merit a mention last week. But this week there have been quite a few more rumours of potentially a Tomori-style deal where we take him on loan with an option to buy that we could activate. And, well, Tomori turned out fantastically. So there are, I would be hopeful if Tanganga would sign because I remember when Mourinho was Tottenham boss, he was given quite a few games and he did impress. So there clearly is some talent there. So I guess I'm not really too fussed about defenders being brought in. As I said when Botman didn't sign, that's not really an area of the pitch that we particularly need to focus on as much as the midfield or attack. But I'm sure Tanganga could be a good signing if he was to come to Milan. Another interesting piece of news from the week is the fact that Brahim will stay on for next season and his loan will not be terminated. Now, I'm sure many of you will remember his time last season wasn't exactly satisfactory. He started like a house on fire. He was scoring goals, providing assists. He was doing fantastically, and frankly, Calhanoglu was a distant memory at the time, and still is. But he petered off, especially since he got COVID, and when he came back, he was never the same player. He was basically non-existent in the games that he played, and eventually Pioli opted for Kessie in the attacking midfield role instead of Brahim Diaz, which I'm sure must have hurt for the Spaniard. But he's been given what I feel like is a last chance, because last season was definitely a disappointment, especially after the way he started. And so, in terms of his prospects for this season, in my opinion, I'm not really sure, to be honest. Obviously there's talent there, he showed that, but at the same time, the way he performed throughout most of last season, basically excluding the start, I'm sorry, but that doesn't fill me with any faith. We signed him on a 2-year loan, so I can understand why Milan wouldn't want to terminate it that easily. If you got him on that deal, why not keep him and see if he can sort of grow into the player you want him to be in the second season, which is about to start. So I can understand the decision, I'm not against it, but frankly, I'm not too sure whether Brahim will take that opportunity. I really hope he does, because it would be a shame to see a player of that talent just peter out of Milan. I think he can definitely succeed, but he needs to try harder, but I definitely think it's in him. Now, moving on to the second segment of this video, and that is the start of pre-season at last. Now, Milan played 2 games since the start of last week. First one was a 60-minute game against an amateur team like Lemine Almeno or something. And of course we comfortably beat them 3-0, didn't really expend much energy. So there wasn't really much to draw from that game for obvious reasons. It was more of a warm-up game for the next game, which is our first proper pre-season game against Koln. Now, I think Koln finished in the top half of Bundesliga last season. They definitely had a good season, I believe. So it was a decent test to kick off our pre-season, and we did manage to beat them 2-1. with notable performance being Olivier Giroud, obviously, with those two fantastic goals. The first one especially. The cheek in dinking the goalkeeper and then tapping it in was utter genius. And then the second goal wasn't too bad either. Another thing I've noted is the resurgence of Rebic so far. Now, this is only 2 games, so let's not draw any rash conclusions from this, but you can clearly see that Rebic wants redemption for the poor season he had last time out. And for all those who think that we should sell him, gain 20 million from him and spend that somewhere else in the squad, no, I think that would be a dumb decision. He's clearly out for redemption after his performances last season and the fact he never quite got going. And so it would be dumb with the motivation that he clearly has to simply just flog him off. I don't think that's a smart decision in any way. So you can clearly see that attitude that he has right now in the 2 preseason games that he's played. Like, I think I mentioned Giroud's dink for the first goal. That was assisted by a back heel from Rebic. So he's clearly concentrated. He's clearly motivated. He's clearly been working very hard up until now to try and get into top form ahead of the new season. And so I'm very hopeful for his prospects. Some more notable performance includes debutants, basically, Pogba and Adli, both in the midfield. And I guess the main conclusion from this is that their roles in the team still haven't been fully worked out. You can see this, the fact that Pogba doesn't really suit the formation that we're playing, but I'm sure, since he's still young, we can still adapt him to play in this position. And he has a good physique as well, so that would be useful in the midfield, especially with Kessie going. And in terms of Adli, I think he has a bright future, definitely. He has those, he has those skills. He's clearly one to look out for in the future, so I'm optimistic with his signing. Although, again, we don't quite know their roles for the new season, so I guess that's just something to wait and see. Now, on to the final segment of this video, and that is just rounding up all the transfers that you may have missed or have just generally gone under the radar. Now, first one, I guess you probably haven't missed this, and the fact that Kessie went to Barcelona. I think this happened last week, but I just put it in here because I didn't actually talk about it last week. I completely forgot. But in fairness to past me, this deal had already been done for a number of weeks. It was just about official confirmation, so it isn't really that big news, is it? So moving on to the transfers that actually happened this week, we had Castillejo finally saying goodbye and joining Gattuso at Valencia. Now, this deal was basically meant to happen last summer, not particularly to Valencia, but I think like Getafe were interested, but for some reason it didn't go through. And there was a lot of hostility towards Castillejo because of this, because we really needed to get his wages off the books, as we are trying to still recover from the reckless spending of a couple of years ago. So it's not useful having a player that is clearly not part of our plans still stuck on the wage bill. So there was a lot of hostility towards him last season. Frankly, I didn't agree with him. It was annoying that he had to stay, but I don't particularly think it was his fault. So I don't get why you'd aim your anger at him. But anyway, he finally left. He's gone to Valencia. I wish him all the best there. Return to Spain. And finally, this one definitely went under the radar. It was a young Primavera striker, Tsaju, going to Cremonese for the season, the newly promoted side. What can I say other than I wish him the best, and I hope he can mature into a more developed player playing for a Serie A team. Can I just point out that if I do seem low on energy, it's because I have a bit of an irritated throat, not quite a sore throat, and also it is very hot and humid outside, and it's only meant to get even more hot in the UK over the next coming days. 40 degrees to be exact, so yeah, not looking good. But anyway, that is the end of the video. There was a lot actually to talk about this week, so hope you enjoyed it, and tune in for next week's episode. And also I'll try and make a video in between then about the squad registration rules concerning Italians and homegrown players and how this is hurting Milan. So stay tuned for that, and see you next video.